All right, this one is on site. I'm going to tell you what it's like when you have a on-site beef with somebody in prison. So you youngins listen and listen all the way to the end. You elderlies too, so you understand. On-site. Our on-site beef is on site. All right? All right, this here is on site. Our on site beef. Let me explain to you what that is. Our on site beef could start for many different reasons. Our on site beef could be because someone is speaking ill of you. People put bones on people. Somebody might call you, a rat. You know, out here, they call each other snitches and rats like it's nothing. But in the prison, you call somebody a rat and they must put the knife in you or their homies is going to run them up top. Let me say that again. They must put the knife in you in prison if someone calls you a rat, a snitch, or a he cipher, monkey cipher. You must put the knife in them. Because if you don't do anything, then that's equivalent to you, agreeing with it. You know what I mean? So that's where it's at. So, if someone's speaking ill on you, that's where that could start from. You understand? They can rock you to sleep if you do something like that. But they normally don't have a chance to unless they tell their homies, I'm going to rock this dude to sleep, So that's how that go. So when there's an on-site beef in prison, you want to be on the offense, not the defense. Meaning you don't sit back and wait for the opposition that you have the beef with to make a move on you. You make a move on him immediately wherever you see him. If you see him, no disrespect to y'all watching, to the religious people, but I don't care if Jesus Christ is with him. The knife must go in him. Because if not, he's going to put it in you. Because your life is in danger. When it's an on-site beef, that means that person plans on taking your life on site. As soon as he see you, he plans on taking your life. Imagine living like that. Like you in a jail, a dude come there and he put a bone on you that, he cipher, monkey cipher, and you don't do nothing to him, your homie's going to look at it like he cipher, monkey cipher. If you don't put a knife in a dude because he calls you he cipher truth, the homies must put a knife in you. So you understand what I'm saying. Now, those type of dudes is equivalent to a snake wearing tennis shoes. You understand? They're equivalent to a snake in tennis shoes. Instead of crawling around on their belly, they walking amongst the men, spreading false propaganda. That's what's happening a lot on YouTube. This is not about the YouTubers. I just want to let y'all know what it is because, this topic is so touchy for those rat bastards that whenever, I speak, they think I'm talking about them. But I'm just speaking in general. That's what it is. Now, it don't matter what jail you at. That's why I put this prison up here. It don't matter what jail you at, what jail you go to. If you run into the person that you have a beef with, you must put your knife in him. Because if not, he's going to put it in you. So it's no, hold on, let's talk about it. No, that's not the type of thing that goes on with an on-site beef. So you understand. Now, let me speak on something that I've been hearing, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, because I've been out the loop for 3 years. I've been out in society. Now, when I was in the prison, the Sureno'S and the North Annuals, right? The Sureno'S is from the southern part of Cali, North Annuals from the northern part. They was beefing. They wasn't even allowed, you know what I mean, to be on the same compound under no circumstances, none whatsoever, you know. Now, imagine, you know, trying to shake hands with somebody and they're telling you that when I catch you, it's on sight. Imagine trying to shake hands with somebody and they're telling you, when I catch you, it's on sight. So the same way these two brothers are shaking hands, they shaking hands not to say, you know, that the beef is over. They're shaking hands that, you know, when I see you, it's on. You know? Just like one of the stories I told, I think it was last week, you know, where dude tried, some brothers from California, dude tried to stab another brother. You know what I mean? Because he disrespected him on the weight pal. He missed. They went on living together. He rocked him to sleep, and then he made his move on him, and they both wound up in a hole, and they just tried to kill each other on the compound, you know? But that turned into an on-site beef. They both wound up going to the hole. I know y'all heard some of this last week, but I'm going to run this into this story. Like, let me ride. You know, I say, let me ride, you know? So it's equivalent to dude goes in the hole and they sharing magazines, they sharing newspapers, they, you know, passing off like one dude didn't eat chicken, but he ate fish, so he gave the dude his chicken, which is the biggest chicken day every Thursday, for his fish every Friday, but they got an on-site beef. The food don't come in their tray. In their tray slot, so you understand, when they pass the food. When the police bring the food down, the inmate would tell the police, give my tray to such and such, so this police will bring the tray to him. So it's not like he's giving them, you know, the food off his tray where it goes in his cell and he puts his hands on it because it's on site, so you don't trust them. But they do all of that, and then they have what they call an on-site beef, but yet they're still communicating. But only thing is stopping them is those bars between them and the fact that they're in the SHU, special housing unit. They're in the hole, so they know that, you know, it's us against them. So now, even though we have an on-site beef, if, you know, they disrespect me and don't give me my laundry, you know, my underwear, my toiletries, or whatever when they supposed to, and I decide to buck with the police and cuss them out and flood the tier, throw feces on the police, whatever I choose to do, even though you got an on-site beef with somebody, they'll rock with you while you're in the hole. But then they don't even have to let you know. But I'm going to say this for layman's terms for you civilians watching and the youngins that don't really understand what's going on. Picture living like this. A dude is trying to kill you. You must kill him when you see him. But now you're in the SHU and you're locked behind the bars where it's just you and yourself, or you and your cellie in the cell, and you're beefing with the police, or your op is beefing with the police. When your op beef with the police, when you're in the special housing unit, the SHU, you're beefing with them. You understand what I'm saying? Now, they did all this passing. Dude said, yo, don't forget, son, you know I'm going to kill you when I see you. You know what I mean? Dude eating the chicken that he just sent down there with the police. Said, yeah, I know, homie. You know what I mean? And he's smiling because it's just a way of life. He's not smiling because it's funny. But we on the outside looking, we think it's funny. But it is what it is. Now, the Nathaniels and the Sureno'S, they was never allowed on the same yard. I don't even know where this came from. That I'm hearing that in the Southern California prison, they made an alliance with each other where, you know, if it's a race war, certain other things, you know what I mean? Correct me if I'm wrong, that, you know, the Nathaniels would roll and hold down the Sureno'S and vice versa, you know? But when I was in the system, the Nathaniels, okay, they had a yard. Everybody try and get closer to their house. They even made a new, you know, rule and regulation in the BOP that you must be transferred and housed within 500 miles of your radius of, you know, your release date or where you're from, so that your family members can come see you, you know, comfortably within 500 miles. So Everybody wanted to get to, from the East Coast. If you're in the penitentiary, you want to get to Allenwood or Lewisburg back in the days. If you're in California, you want to get to Lompoc. Then they opened up Victorville. So that made it even more of a priority to get to Victorville, because Victorville, I think, is like maybe 45 minutes from the city. You know what I mean? And, then they opened up Atwater. Now, I mentioned Atwater and I mentioned Allenwood for a reason. Atwater is where they kept the Nathaniels. The Nathaniels from the northern part of California, but they had them in the northern part of the East Coast. So to get a visit, their family had to fly from California to Pennsylvania to get a visit. Is that crazy or what? And this is where they got them living. But they got a jail with less than an hour away from them. Less than an hour away from them, they got a jail called Atwater USP. Atwater was out of control. Let me show you what Atwater looked like so y'all fully get an understanding of what's going on out here with this. You know what I mean? This is what Atwater looked like, You got a bunch of Sureno'S, No joke. They get up every morning. You know what I mean? This is their protocol. They get up every morning before the doors pop. That's why when people call me, 5, 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning, they be like, "You up?" I'll be like, "Hell yeah, nigga, I'm up before the doors pop." I'm saying that right now in 2023 while I'm a free man. I don't know. I'm institutionalized. I'm going to keep it 100. I'm institutionalized to a degree. I'm definitely institutionalized. And I'm burnt out. I'm all of that. You know what I mean? Because I had to live like this for 26 years. Then I had to survive on the streets with, the likes of, Delroy Uzi on the street. You know what I mean? Delroy Uzi was a political pawn. I'm going to give you probably about a 3-part story on Delroy Uzi. If y'all want the real Delroy Uzi story, because I was on the street with him and, I was there when he terrorized the streets of Brooklyn. He had a crew called the Rankers. You know what I mean? I'm going to tell you about it in the joint when I do the little joint on him. But he called it the Rankers because in Jamaica, rank means stink. You know what I mean? I got with Delroy in ADX. I'm riding. Let me ride. I got with Delroy Uzi in ADX. And when I got with Delroy Uzi, I asked him, I knew what rank mean, because every Jamaican know say, something rank and tink, So I said, why did you name your crew the Rankers? He said, because when we're done with them, it's like, when you piss on the side of a building and it rank, you know what I mean? In America, rank means stink. You know what I mean? So only just did learn a new word. That's why the Cash App up there. Make sure it don't have a 1 in the last name Hall. It's Hall, not H1A. The game is to be sold, not told. You see the game that I'm giving you? Now, Delroy told me that he named his crew, like how you got the shower posse, he named his crew the Rankers because when he was done allegedly chopping up the bodies, it ranked like piss. You know what piss smell like in the 90-degree weather, trapped on the side of a building, especially like when you go in a hallway and people been pissing in the same spot and it just rank. It rank. What I'm going to tell you about the real live rankers, if you want to hear it. Because I got stories for days. Gunshots for stories. I lived through it all. I'm talking about, Delroy came up in like 81. This is going to be about Delroy and On Site. Because Delroy had an on-site beef, you know what I mean? With, PNP, because he was a, JLP, Now, whenever he saw them, he felt like whatever they had, he was entitled to, is what he told me, because PNP lost the war in Jamaica. They lost the war in Jamaica. Now he's in Brooklyn, New York. Now he's in the United States, and he feel like they're beneath him, and they owe him because the party that he fought for won the war. So therefore, they had to surrender anything they had. That included their drug spots. Could you imagine a man running up on you while you got a store, come in your store at gunpoint and tell you you got to get out because you lost the war in Jamaica, and this belongs to me in America because you lost the war in Jamaica and my party won from the work that I allegedly put in. That's what goes on. Let's ride. Just want to give you a little brief thing about Delroy so I can put in the title to let you know that it's going to be coming up. But now we're getting back over here. So now you got the Sureno'S and all that. Imagine, seeing all these men working out, doing burpees, push-ups, pull-ups, dips, crunches in unison every morning. And they're preparing for war. Now, that's what they had in Atwater. Atwater is less than an hour from where the Nathaniels is from because it's up in the northern part of California. Like 3.5 hours from L.A., because I had a female was coming to see me, and thank you for coming to see me. I had a female coming to see me all the way from L.A., and even while we was on lockdown, she came, and that was the best part of the bid, to be able to be called out from a lockdown situation where you locked down for a month, can't even come out your cell to get ice or hot water for coffee. And then police come to your door and knock and say, get ready for a visit. And now you're going out there to smell the sweet fragrance of a woman's perfume and see her sweet, ripe figure and her breasts is looking perfect after sitting in a cell by yourself, watching the four walls. It got to the point where I could look at the wall and stare at the wall long enough, and I could see the color of the wall starting to change for me, chain smoking in the cell and blowing the nicotine in the air. That's how long they kept me locked in a cell. Imagine what that does to your mind. When the officer got killed in Atwater, they had us locked in for 6 months. There was no dirt. I'm going to have to give you a whole story on that, too. So if you want that story, put in the comments. Somebody please remind me. An officer got killed. They had us locked in for 6 months, and the whole compound was dirt, like you was on Mars or something. And they came in with these big HES trucks and sprayed it with this green felt that looked like a tennis court. And when they sprayed it with this green felt that looked like a tennis court, it was, like in less than 24 hours, you saw blades of grass jumping out the thing. And you could actually sit in your window in your cell, look out at this green felt and watch the blades of grass come out the ground one at a time. You know what that does to your mind? And you think, I'm not burnt out? I'm burnt out. Yeah, I came home, I jumped on the YouTube, I did my thing, I got my groove, I got 3 cars, I'm doing real good right now. You know what I mean? But that's what I came from sitting in a cell watching grass grow. For 6 months, within a week, the grass was at least 1 inch high. That whole area they painted with that joint. But anyway, let me get back to the point. Because, you got a lot of rat bastards that don't like when I ride. But that's why I'll give them the little 3-second timeout. That way they could turn out, and go to another channel. 1, 2, 3. Be gone. Now, so this is where we at. Now, we up in Atwater. Up in Atwater, the Sureno'S got the yard. But it's in Nathaniel's backyard. No Nathaniel is allowed, was allowed, to come on that compound. I don't know if they are now or not. I know that this is in the state of California where they have the alliance. But no Nathaniel was allowed to come on the compound less than an hour from their home. They was all the way across country in Allenwood, Pennsylvania, and had to take a 5.5 hour flight back then to come to get a visit from their family. Now, I remember, let me ride. Well, let me ride. Okay, so now I remember I'm in Lump Park, And the Sureno'S is deep there too. The West Coast had, the Sureno'S got the yards out there in the feds. I'm in Lump Park, and I'm standing up waiting for the Evelyn Child. It was about 4:30, quarter to 5. They just cleared the move. Said 4 o'clock count was over. Now we're gonna stay out from 4:30 till about 10 o'clock that night, and we're waiting on Child. Now, while we was locked in for the 4 o'clock count, they brought a Nathaniel in. The Nathaniel came out the cell while I'm sitting there waiting on a homie, to roll up the weed in his cell so that, we could take it, to the yard so that after we eat, we go smoke a joint in the yard, under the little pavilion and, watch a little BET in the yard because they had a TV in the yard, a big 35-inch TV in the yard under the pavilion. So we be under there in Lump Park and we be gambling. Y'all remember Lump Park? They even had a little putt-putt golf course before the ride. But we used to be under there playing spades, blackjack, poker, dice. You know what I mean? We was chilling. I mean, my man Farris, Farris from, AKA the Lynch Mob. Me and Farris was talking over the weekend, and Farris said, yo, Unique, you know that right now, prison is so messed up that for a person to do a 10-year bid, now is equivalent to the 30 years that we did. That's how violent and crazy the penitentiary has gotten, that if somebody go to prison from 2023 to 2033, it's equivalent to them going to prison from 2023, well, let's say from 1993 to 2023, like me. You understand? Now, these brothers was waiting by the metal detector with me, and a dude comes out the cell, said, man, I just got here, man. I'm a Nathaniel. Where the Nathaniels at in the unit? You know what I mean? So we looked at him like, Nathaniels? He's like, yeah. He's like, oh, dude, y'all ain't allowed on this pound. It's all Sereno territory here, man. Don't let nobody hear you say that. He's like, what? You know what I mean? Now, let me ask y'all to put in the comments, what would you do if the police put you in a cell, doing 4 o'clock count, they open up the cell, now it's child time, and you want to know where your homies is at. And you ask the people around you, where's your homies? And they tell you, oh, your homies? Ain't none of your homies here. They beefing with, with this other set, And, y'all not allowed on this yard. What would you do? Would you go check in? Meaning, would you go to police? Oh, I can't be on the yard. None of my peoples is here. I'm not safe. You know what I mean? Put it in the comments. This is what this brother did. Because this called an on-site. So once we told him that, the first, Hispanic he seen walking by, he just took off on him. He didn't even get a chance to get a knife. He just took off and started wailing him in his face. Boom, 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 boom. And he's punishing these dudes because the dude had size. So he got the better of him and just started punishing him. And the police came, the deuces, whoop, whoop, whoop. I got my joint. I went out and got the little prop. See, this is the walkie-talkie. You see this orange button here? This orange button, when you push it, it alerts everybody that has one of these walkie-talkies, all the police that got one of these walkie-talkies, and then it goes whoop, 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 and then all the police come running because they know the location that pushed this orange button. All the police come running. That's called deuces. So now y'all know. See, I give y'all that. That's why I say the Cash App is on the screen. The orange button is deuces. When you push it, all the police rush towards this. Make sure it don't have a 1 in my last name. All right? And the account was created in 2020. So now, dude is whooping them. They hit the deuces. They come, they grab them, they put them in a hole. Come to find out, the dude that he jumped on wasn't even a Sereno. He was a Paisan, because the Paisan was allowed to live in the same fishbowl as us and the Sureno'S on the same compound. But he just jumped on the first Hispanic that he seen and started whipping him. That's called a tough man check-in. But at least now, when they send him to another compound where his homies is at, and they say, yeah, I heard they sent you to Lump Park. What happened in Lump Park? He said, nah, I took off on the first, brother, the first person I seen, because I know they in alliance with the Sureno'S, so that's why they on the line. So they was food too. You know what I mean? Because it's on site with us in the Sureno'S, and anybody that rode with the Sureno'S. So he got a warm hero's welcome when he came there, just like the Proud Boys is going to get a proud, warm hero's welcome. When they get into the prison system, because they went up against the federal government for their beliefs. Now, so dude winds up going in the hole, and then I went in the hole for something with the police in Unicorn, and I run into him in the hole, and I said, yo, dude, that wasn't even Sureno. And he said, man, it don't matter. The Sureno'S let him live on the yard. They got alliance with the Sureno'S, so I don't care, if they're Sureno or not. I took off because I'm not going to another jail that I was on a compound. I didn't take off on one of them, and I had a chance to with no handcuffs, shackles, or no bars between us, because then my people would have denounced me. I would have never been able to live safe again. So this is what you youngins want. Feel free to go do it. You see, I give you a good game to save your life. That's why I say the Cash App is on the screen. So you rat bastards that got a problem with me and the Cash App, just go to another channel. It's not that hard. You know what I mean? It's not that hard. This is my platform. So now, they beefing, but I'm hearing now that in the state, the Sureno'S and the Nathaniels have an alliance. From what I was told. So y'all correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. From what I was told, right? From what I was told during my 26 years, is that the Sureno'S didn't like the Nathaniels because they was not only they were from Northern California, but up in Northern California, they mixed with the blacks, and a lot of the Nathaniels, they had babies with black women. Could you imagine? Could you imagine somebody going to war with you because your baby mother is black and you're Hispanic? This is what go on in the penitentiary. It's a whole nother world in there. So, you see people come up here with all this paperwork. I heard all the paperwork talk. I stay away from the paperwork talk because I'm not in that mentality. My thing is, as long as you identify yourself, as a rat, you know what I mean? I'm good with it because now I have a choice to deal with you. But don't come at me like a wolf in sheep's clothing, because when it's revealed that you're a sheep, you will be mauled. Do you understand that? So don't come at me as, a rat in a human form, because when it's revealed, you will be mauled. And that's the way the penitentiary go. And you don't put a bone on someone unless you have paperwork. Now, out here, everybody questions paperwork. But that's because people started making fake paperwork. You know what I mean? But if you're from the prison, you know what real paperwork look like because you have your own. So that's why I don't really get involved in that. I let them deal with what they're dealing with. If somebody asks me a question, you know what I mean, I deal with that, but I stay away from it because I'm not out to expose rats because I get nothing from that. The youth get nothing from that. You understand? Because the youth is not going to run with these dudes anyway. So, I don't get in it. But if I know a youth that is dealing with somebody that already, self-proclaimed and let me know that he's a rat, I have to tell the youth or the elder that I know that, I pull him up in front of the dude. I ain't going to tell him behind his back, I'm telling you, he's a rat, but don't tell nobody. We don't do that. You know what I mean? I pull him up. I see him together, and I go over there, and I let him know straight up, tell homie who you are. You know what I mean? And he already know what I mean. That means you're going to tell him, I testified on the case. You know what I mean? I'm not going to go, he testified on the case, but don't tell him I told you. No, I'm going to go right to him when I see him together. You know who you hanging with, right? He's going to be like, nah, tell him who you are, family. You know what I mean? And you're going to be like, yeah, I testified against a case when I was a juvenile, I was 13, or I testified a case when I was 23, but they had my mother or my baby mother, and that's where the excuses come in. But I must tell them who they are if they're my comrades. You understand what I'm saying? If they're my comrades. Because if they're not my comrade, they might be he cipher, truth also. So they might be a rat as well. You know, so I don't get involved in that and go tell, he's a rat. And then he'd be like, yeah, well, I'm a rat too. No, we don't do that. I don't get involved in none of that. I stay in my lane, man. That's why I don't mention nobody's name on my platform. So this is for all you rat bastards, that I know is watching, I don't care. Just admit who you are so that the men and women on man time and women time know. Don't proclaim to be a man of honor and then go in the home of a female and around her child and you a rat and teach her child rat bastard ways. You know what I mean? You just don't do it. You just don't do it. I hit the wrong button. My bad. You know what I mean? But, you just don't do it. Because that's what the problem is. So many of our women have been allowing these type of people that's not men of honor to come amongst their children and raise the children while the fathers was incarcerated or buried. You understand? And they just picking a man based on the physical appearance. They don't even know what's in his mind or in his heart. And that's what counts. I'm going to start doing videos on Unique Mecca Audio TV. Please go subscribe to Unique Mecca Audio TV. Like I'm doing my prison stuff or my hood stuff over here, I'm going to be doing relationships over there. You know what I mean? As far as, let me relax. Let me relax. But remember, go to Unique Mecca Audio TV and subscribe. If you're not subscribed here, subscribe. But now, imagine that. Now, these Sureno'S run the yard. Now I'm hearing that I'm out here in the street that the Sureno'S and the Nathaniels have an alliance when I know it's been on site for 20-something years in the feds. Someone put in the comments if they have that alliance in the feds as well. But that's what on site mean. On site mean if somebody come to the jail where you at and you're in the kitchen and here comes chow time. Now, let me tell you how we have to sit in the kitchen, if you know how to move. When we go in the kitchen, we don't sit, with our backs to the door. We sit with our front to the door so we can see everyone coming in, so we can see our opposition as they come in. So we sitting there with our backs to the door and our ops come in. The first thing they're going to do, because they're going to hear who's on the compound as well. Then they know who's there before they get there. They're going to say, yo, where's such and such at? You know what I mean? Oh, he go to the kitchen at dinner time. So at dinner time, they go to the kitchen. They looking for him. They see him. He's sitting with his back turned. He telling a good story or he eating. And here come a dude to bust him in the head with a lock or to stab him in his neck. That's how serious that is. That's why you sit with your front facing the door so you can see everybody coming in, so that if you see your ops coming in the kitchen, you know to jump up, get your knife, and put your work in, because he's coming to put his work in on you. You see how serious this is? Are y'all really paying attention to this? Do you see how serious this is? This is on site. I don't care. Now, the worst place to fight in a penitentiary is the kitchen, especially at lunchtime, because lunchtime you got the warden, the AW, you got the SIS, that's the Security Investigation Service, you got the unit manager, you got the case manager, you got the psychiatrist, you got everybody in the kitchen. That's anybody that runs the movement of the institution. So if you fight in that kitchen, you will automatically be transferred to another jail, because that means that you don't respect the lives of the authority that's in charge. So that's a no tolerance fighting in the kitchen. But if you see someone in the kitchen just come off the bus, you can't say, man, if I pop off, I'm gonna get transferred and I got all this dope on the compound, or I'm 20 minutes from the house. No, that's your op. He don't care that you 20 minutes from the house. He's coming to put his knife in you, man. You see how serious that is? That's like you call somebody a rat all the way in Allenwood and then you all the way in Lum Park. And then now here comes dude coming to the compound and you're in the kitchen. You got a girl in Lum Park. She coming to see you every week. She bringing the pack. You know what I mean? You living like a king in Lum Park. And then here comes a dude that you got to on site with. All that is out the window, my brother. Because he don't care nothing about how good you got it or none of that, unless you're gonna be, soft press and go to him and say, "Look, I don't want to beef, man. I'm eating good here. I got this, I got that," and you take care of him. You know what I mean? But dudes, they don't even have a chance to do that much talking. But look at these brothers behind me. Do you know what it's like? Listen, when I was in Lum Park, they had about 300 of these men, or should I say these machines, because they'll go out there, they work out. Like I said, all of them will work out together. The first time I ever seen them have a meeting in Lum Park blew my mind. I'm from the East Coast. They don't there wasn't a lot of Hispanic gangs over there. The big gang over there back then was the Netters and the Latin Kings. You know what I mean? And it might have 10, 15 of them, whatever. But I'm in Lum Park, and it was 300 of these machines around me. And they all was in like a circle, sitting in the yard, nice and peacefully. And they had one man stood up at a time, and he talked. And I'm walking the track, and I'm watching these 300 men look like they was in an arena. They had it set up like an arena. They so structured, they got to get a round of applause. You got to give the Sureno'S a round of applause, man. All right, calm down. They were so structured, they all lined up. And then when they out there and they have the meetings, they all put on their khaki suits. They put the one button on the top, and the shirt hangs open with their white wife beater, and their stuff is creased up, and they look like they're going to a religious service. And they had their meetings on the yard. And when they had the meetings on the yard, they was respected by everyone. I'm going to keep it 100. They was respected by everyone. But if they violated anyone, then that respect went out the window. But they was respectful. They let you know where they stand. And they didn't do business with blacks, didn't eat from blacks, didn't allow blacks to touch their TV, didn't allow blacks to go in the TV room, in their TV room, when they had TV rooms out west. Now they done locked off the TV rooms because too much stuff was going on, and they using them to put beds in now because they flooding the prisons. But just picture what I'm saying. I'm sitting there watching 300 Mexicans finely dressed with their prison uniforms up, and they standing up in rows, and the rows went in a circle. And I had a man in the middle, and he's speaking to them, and I'm walking, and I'm mesmerized like, oh my God. And I'm thinking something going to jump off. My man said, nah, they just having a meeting. And the crazy part is there's a tower right there above them, on the outside of the fence. The tower couldn't hear what they were saying. They said, there was rumors that they had these microphones that they could point, and you could pick up what they're saying, what whoever's saying if you pointed at them. All this technology they said they had. I never confirmed it. But the tower was facing them. They couldn't hear them, but they could see them. And there's a police up there with a gun. And it looked like the police was protecting them. But that wasn't it. The police was minding their business. As long as they wasn't messing with the police, it wasn't a problem. Like I said, when I got to Lewisburg, riding back to 94. I got to Lewisburg October 17th, 1994. When I got to Lewisburg, the first thing they told me the day after, October 18th, 94, when they took me down to what they call Quay. If y'all was in Lewisburg, you know what Quay is. When you go to Quay, if you want a video on that too, let me know. Everything you go into detail. That's why I ride so much. That's why these videos get so lengthy, and a lot of these rat bastards, they can't stay focused. You know what I mean? So you got to give them one thing at a time. But my people that watch this, they like to ride with me. We get in the car, and we riding from here, to Boston, from Harlem to Boston. We get in the car, and whoever's driving, he controls the music on what he wants to hear because he's going to dip the traffic. So if he decide he want to hear Little Kid Capri, he put in Kid Capri. If he decide he wants some Brucey B, put that in. If he decide he wants some Little Baby, put that in. If he decide he wants some Little Dirk, he put that in. And the passenger don't complain, yeah, I don't want to hear no little baby. Nigga, you in the passenger seat. You riding shotgun. You just look for the police behind me as I zoom forward. And if I need something in the car, like a blunt rolled, a beer opened, or whatever, you handle that. You're shotgun. That's what we call it when you're in the passenger seat. So right now, you know, put your seatbelts on, buckle in, and just ride shotgun with me and let me, you know, take you on this joyful ride. So, you know, that's where we at. So you understand, man. But, you know, I feel I've been on here long enough because I don't know. Sometimes I feel like, you know, no disrespect, because y'all say, you always leave from a cliffhanger. Because as I'm talking, I'm telling these stories, I'm trying to put them in a way to make sure you can understand it. Like I'm going to start breaking down the politics with what's going on with Donald Trump, with his indictments, and, you know, Giuliani, who, you know, brought down the mob with the RICO, now charged for the RICO. I'm going to break all of that down. So if y'all want that, also put it in the comments. I did something on the Proud Boys last week to touch on a little politics so y'all understand what's going on. But if y'all want that, you know, put it in the comments. Whatever you want, put it in the comments. My number's on the screen. I return my calls. I return my texts, and I answer my calls. So if anybody got a problem with what I'm saying, any Sureno out there, Nathaniel, Pison, you know, Boulder Brother, Blood, Crip, GD, Vice Lord, Black Gorilla Family, you know, Latin Kings. If anybody want to come up here and speak on your, you know, your gang, your movement, feel free to call me at that number on the screen, 917-680-9091. And if you see something that you want me to speak on a YouTube video or a news article, send it to that number or send it to my Instagram at Unique Mecca Audio is on the screen, just like that. That's my Instagram right there. And then here comes my Cash App. Yeah, so you rat bastards, you hate all you want. These rat bastards is funny. They put their Cash App up there and they scared to open their mouth to ask for a Cash App because they know they're not speaking of anything of substance. So they put their Cash App up and they scared to ask because they got no jewels and game and wisdom to give. So they hope they get a Cash App. Then they get mad at a man that has jewels, wisdom, and game to give when he says, Cash App is on the screen. Send a nigga $1. I don't care if it's $1, whatever it is, so we can improve the equipment, make sure that I get the proper gear, whatever it is. Just show your support for my channel. Show your support for my content. Instagram is on the screen. Cash App is on the screen. Remember, my name is spelled just like that. 2 L's, no 1 in the last name, and my account was created in 2020. They get mad when I do that. But look at the content that I'm bringing you. Let me just tap out because right now I'm pissed. You know, but I want to also mention, I'm reading a book. I'm going to let y'all know how this is real soon. It's called Victorious by Sandy Biddle. You know what I mean? She out of D.C. You know, I'm reading this book right now. I'm going to let you know how this is. If y'all got a book you want me to read and feature on my joint, send it to me. My book is on the screen, Unique A Roaring Harlem at aroaringharlem.com. I'm reading this book and I'm going to let you know how it is. All right? Just so y'all understand. But, you know, let me tap out, man. I've been on here long enough, man, and, you know, gunshots again to the rat bastards.
Cheers, cheers, toast the crime, toast the crime, the crime, the crime, the crime.
Fresh out the can of 26, yeah. Heat back on the strip, getting back in the mix. Yeah. What he mentions a gift. Rush. You stand up 10 toes down, and I suggest you pay attention to this. Real. Take a little gully posse and put it in Harlem. He cut from the bottom, came up from the bottom. Drop the book, you should go and get it. The Instagram page and the YouTube, you could go and visit. Yeah. Then you could consider yourself LinkedIn. Real. Sit front row and get Jews from a kingpin. How he went through it, so you ain't gotta go do it. To not pay attention would be stupid. Talking about a man that probably put your grandfather on. Probably the reason that him and your grams got along. A man that generated millions on the block, did his time, never squilling to the cops, make an audio.
Mecca
2 G's in the 90s. Drop top Beamer so shiny. I let shorty go, she was whining. Treat her like my past, she behind me. Spend a couple bands on the Dapper Dan. You be back again, getting green like a Packers fan. No cap, it's a roaring uptown. They be horn uptown, Dominican bust downs. Now we on the positive, we got a lot to give. Now he trying to stop the kids from being inoperative. So take heed, homie, lend a ear. He started in uptown, he gon' finish dead. But now it ain't about selling drugs, buying cars. It's about buying property to make the community yours. So we can give back to the youth them. Cause they the truth them. And bless up to all the rules.